It was just another Thursday night at the diner, the kind where you keep glancing at the clock, counting the minutes until you can kick off your shoes and crash on the couch. That's until Jack and his crew barged in, loud and laughing, smelling like smoke and sweat from whatever blaze they'd just conquered. They chose the largest table, right smack in the middle, impossible to ignore even if you tried. And trust me, I tried. "Hey, Carol, could we get some menus over here? And maybe your sweetest smile to go with them?" Jack hollered, winking at me as his buddies chuckled and egged him on. I rolled my eyes, forcing a smile. "Coming right up, gentlemen. Try not to burn the place down before I get back," I shot back, earning a round of laughter as I turned to fetch the menus. That night, they were celebrating Jack's 30th birthday. Between taking their orders and making sure their beers were topped off, Jack and I got to talking. He had this easy way about him, laughing loudly at his own jokes, eyes twinkling with mischief. I found myself laughing along, his charm infectious. "So, you always this tough on your customers, or am I just special?" Jack asked during one of my rounds to their table, his smile all teeth and trouble. "Only the ones who give me a hard time," I quipped, placing my hands on my hips. "You planning on being trouble?" "Only the best kind," he replied, his grin widening. "How about you give me your number, and I promise to only call during your least busy hours." I hesitated, not usually one to mix work with, well, anything else. But something about him, that daredevil smile or maybe just the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the room, made me scribble down my number on a napkin. "Don't make me regret this," I warned, sliding the napkin across the table. "Never," he said, pocketing the napkin like it was a treasure. Our first date was nothing fancy, just a walk in the park, but it felt like we'd known each other for years. He talked about his job with a passion that was infectious, about running into burning buildings when everyone else was running out. It scared me, the risks he took daily, but I admired him for it. A year flew by, filled with countless dates, late-night calls, and moments where I couldn't imagine my life without him. So, when he proposed, there was no hesitation. Just a resounding yes, that I'm pretty sure they heard 3 blocks over. We got married in a small ceremony, nothing fancy, just close friends and family. Moved into the small house my grandma left me. It was our little slice of heaven, a place to start our future together. That future got a whole lot brighter when we found out I was pregnant. The idea of becoming parents, of bringing a new life into our world, filled us with an indescribable joy. When Michael arrived, it was like everything clicked into place. He was our miracle, a perfect blend of the two of us. The day we found out about Michael's condition hit us like a ton of bricks. We were in the doctor's office, Jack's hand gripping mine so tight I thought he might crush it, but I was grateful for the anchor. "So, what's the verdict, Doc? Michael's gonna be okay, right?" Jack's voice was steady, but I could hear the undercurrent of worry. The doctor sighed, pushing his glasses up the bridge of his nose. "I'm afraid it's a bit more complicated. Michael has cerebral palsy. It's affecting his muscle coordination, especially on the right side." Silence. It was like the room had suddenly run out of air. I could feel Jack stiffen beside me, his grip on my hand now a lifeline. "Cerebral what now? That's fixable, right? Some therapy, some exercises?" Jack's voice cracked, the tough firefighter facade crumbling. The doctor shook his head, his expression sympathetic but firm. "It's a lifelong condition. Therapy can help, yes, but it won't cure it. He'll likely face challenges." I barely heard the rest. My mind was racing, fear and confusion warring with a fierce surge of protective love for my little boy. When we left the doctor's office, the world seemed to have tilted on its axis. Jack was quiet, a rare occurrence, as we walked back to the car. Once inside, he finally spoke, his voice raw. "What did we do wrong, huh? Why our boy?" "We didn't do anything wrong, Jack. These things, they just happen. It's not about fault." My own voice sounded strange to my ears, trying to infuse strength I wasn't sure I felt. Jack slammed his hand against the steering wheel, a burst of frustration. It's not fair to him, to us. Michael's supposed to have all these chances, and now. I reached over, placing my hand over his. He'll still have chances, Jack. Maybe not the ones we imagined, but he's still our son. We'll figure this out. Together. That night, after putting Michael to bed, we sat at the kitchen table, a sea of pamphlets and printouts on cerebral palsy spread out before us. It was overwhelming, the unknowns and what-ifs piling up like a barricade. Jack looked over at me, his eyes tired but determined. We're gonna do whatever it takes, right? I mean, therapy, specialists, whatever he needs. It wasn't easy. There were days when I felt like I was drowning, trying to balance therapy sessions, doctor's appointments, and just the day-to-day care Michael required. Jack was my rock, always there to take over when I was too exhausted to think straight. For years into our adventure with Michael, life decided to throw us another curveball, or maybe it was more of a blessing. I got pregnant again. We were over the moon, ecstatic about the prospect of giving Michael a sibling. And when Alex came into the world, kicking and screaming with all his might, we thought our family was complete. But as the boys grew, it became clear that things weren't going to be as straightforward as we'd hoped. Alex was as healthy as a horse, running circles around us before he could even talk properly. Michael, with his challenges, watched from the sidelines, his smile never wavering even when his eyes did. One evening, after dinner, I caught a glimpse of something in Alex's eyes that hadn't been there before. It was a look of embarrassment as he watched Michael struggle to grab his cup. I shook it off as my imagination, but it nagged at me. A few weeks later, the issue I'd been dreading reared its ugly head. I was tucking Alex into bed when he said, "Mom, why does Michael have to be so different?" His words hit me like a punch in the gut. Alex, your brother is just unique, that's all. We're all unique in our own ways. But kids at school ask questions. They don't get why he can't do things like us. Alex mumbled, looking away. I sat down beside him, taking his hand. Listen, bud. Michael may have some trouble with certain things, but he's got a lot going for him too. He's super smart, you know? And he loves you a ton. We all need to stick together, okay? Alex nodded, but I could tell he wasn't fully convinced. The divide grew as the boys got older, with Alex often refusing to be seen with Michael in public. It broke my heart, but I didn't know how to bridge the gap. Things came to a head when Alex flat out refused to be seen with Michael at school. He's always doing stuff, and then everyone laughs, Alex blurted out one afternoon, frustration and anger pouring out of him. Jack and I talked it over later that night, the worry and sadness clear in his eyes. We've got to do something, babe. This can't go on. They're brothers, they should be each other's biggest supporters, not enemies. I nodded, my mind racing for solutions. Maybe we can find something they both enjoy? Something that doesn't highlight their differences, but celebrates what they can do together. Jack agreed, and we decided to introduce more family activities, hoping to mend the rift. But deep down, I feared it wasn't going to be enough. Alex's resentment seemed to run deeper than just sibling rivalry. It felt like we were standing on the edge of a precipice, and I wasn't sure how to pull us back. The divide between Michael and Alex wasn't just a crack anymore, it felt like a chasm. As they grew into their teenage years, the differences between them only seemed to magnify, especially in Alex's eyes. He was all about appearances, hanging with the popular crowd, and, unfortunately, that crowd didn't include his brother. One evening, as we were clearing up after dinner, Alex announced he had a soccer game the next day and explicitly asked not to have Michael brought along. "Can you just not bring him tomorrow? It's really important to me," he said, not meeting my eyes. Jack, who was wiping down the table, stopped and looked at Alex sharply. "What's that supposed to mean, Alex? Why wouldn't we bring Michael?" Alex sighed, a sound of exasperation that made my heart sink. "Look, it's just embarrassing, okay? He cheers too loud and everyone looks." I felt a lump in my throat, but before I could say anything, Michael, who'd been quiet till then, spoke up. "It's fine. I don't want to go if I'm just going to embarrass you." The sadness in Michael's voice was a punch to the gut. Jack put down the cloth and walked over to him. "No, son. You're not embarrassing. If anyone's being embarrassing, it's Alex for acting ashamed of his own brother." The soccer game came and went. Despite Alex's request, we all went to support him, including Michael. But the joy of watching Alex play was marred by the sight of him avoiding his brother's gaze, of Michael sitting a little apart, trying so hard to blend into the background. Things came to a head a few weeks later when Alex refused to get into the car because Michael was already seated inside. "I'll just walk," he snapped, his face set in a stubborn scowl. Jack, usually the peacemaker, lost his cool. "Get in the damn car, Alex. Enough of this nonsense." But Alex didn't budge. Instead, he shot back. "Why do you always take his side? Just because he's got a disability doesn't mean I don't matter." That statement stopped us all in our tracks. Michael, looking hurt and bewildered, got out of the car. "I'll walk too. Don't want to cause any more problems." I felt tears prickle at the corners of my eyes as I watched him walk away, his limp more pronounced with each step. Jack, visibly shaken, turned to Alex. "You happy now? You've just broken your brother's heart, and for what? To save face? Is that what we taught you?" Alex's face crumbled, and for a moment, I thought he'd apologize, make things right. But he didn't. He turned on his heel and started walking in the opposite direction. 35 years have flown by since Jack and I tied the knot. It's funny how time has a way of slipping through your fingers like water, leaving behind memories, both sweet and bitter. Our boys, Michael and Alex, aren't boys anymore, but grown men, each carving out his path in life. Michael, the eldest at 33, has always had a keen mind, especially for computers and IT technologies. Despite the challenges his condition posed, he never let it define him. He lives with us, turning the little office in the back into his personal tech haven. Alex, on the other hand, took a different route. At 29, he's fiercely independent, living on his own and diving into the world of marketing and advertising, with a side gig as a photographer on weekends. It's a creative outlet for him, something that's always brought him joy. Jack's still at the fire station, battling blazes and saving lives. He could have retired by now, but with expenses and the need to support the family, he's kept at it. As for me, I've remained a housewife, taking care of the house and my family, my world revolving around them. One evening, Alex decided to drop what felt like a bombshell on us. He was unusually quiet throughout dinner, pushing his food around his plate. Finally, he looked up, clearing his throat. "So, I've got news," he started, his voice holding a mix of excitement and nervousness. Jack and I exchanged curious glances, waiting for him to continue. Michael looked on, equally intrigued. "I'm getting married," Alex announced, a proud smile spreading across his face. The news caught us off guard. "Married? To who? How come we're just hearing about this now?" Jack's questions shot out like rapid fire. I was still processing the news. "Married, huh? That's wonderful, Alex. Tell us about her," I managed, my heart swelling with a complex mix of emotions. Alex's grin didn't waver. "Her name's Lana. She's amazing. Beautiful, works as a model. We're in love." Michael was quick to offer his congratulations, his face lighting up. "That's great news, bro." But there was an awkward pause, a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. Alex seemed hesitant, glancing at Michael with an expression I couldn't quite read. "And when do we get to meet this Lana?" I prodded gently, trying to break the tension. Alex shifted in his seat. "Well, about that. I was thinking we could have dinner this weekend. Can we maybe not bring Michael along?" The request hit me like a slap. Why on earth not? I found myself asking, my voice sharper than I intended. Jack looked like he was about to blow a fuse. "Alex, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Why wouldn't Michael come?" Alex looked uncomfortable, picking at the edge of the tablecloth. "It's just, Lana's from a different world, you know? I don't want to freak her out." I felt sick to my stomach. Freak her out? Alex, she's going to be part of this family. She should want to meet all of us, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. Michael had gone silent, his expression one of hurt resignation. It's okay. Really. I don't have to go. Don't worry about it, he said quietly, but the pain in his voice was clear. But it wasn't okay. Not by a long shot. The dinner happened without Michael. Meeting Lana, I could see the attraction. She was stunning, yes, but there was a coldness about her, a superficiality that didn't sit right with me. Throughout dinner, Alex played the doting fiancé, his attention solely on Lana. She talked about her modeling, her plans for their wedding, and her vision for their future. It was all about appearances, about being seen in the right circles. When the topic of the wedding came up, Lana was the one to bring up finances. Weddings are so expensive, aren't they? But I guess it's the one day you get to live out your fairy tale. Alex chimed in. Actually, we were hoping you could help us out with that. With the wedding expenses, I mean. Jack and I exchanged a look, the request not entirely unexpected but still a bit surprising in its directness. We'll see what we can do, Jack said, his tone neutral. The evening ended with Alex dropping the bomb about the diamond ring, a ring that cost more than $7,000. Jack and I were speechless. As we paid for dinner, an absurdly expensive affair, the weight of what was happening began to sink in. Our son was drifting further away from us, wrapped up in a world of appearances and materialism. The run-up to Alex's wedding was nothing short of a circus, and Jack and I, we were the ones juggling the most. Bills piled up as we covered almost every cost of the wedding. Alex claimed he'd blown his share on Lana's dress and his suit, saying they had to look perfect for the big day. The real kicker came the evening of the wedding rehearsal. Alex cornered us, his face all serious like he was about to drop some deep truth. Mom, Dad, I gotta talk to you about the wedding, he started, avoiding looking directly at any of us. What's up? I asked, feeling a knot in my stomach. Michael stood a bit behind, trying to catch a glimpse of Alex's face. Alex took a deep breath, and what came out next floored me. I think it's best if Michael doesn't come to the wedding. Actually, it might be better if none of you did. Jack's face went from confused to angry in a split second. Excuse me? What the hell are you saying, Alex? Alex rushed on, words tumbling out in a mess. Look, there's gonna be a lot of important people there, public figures, you know? And, well, you guys, it's just not the right fit. Lana thinks so too. I'll send you some photos, okay? I felt as if I'd been slapped. Tears welled up, and no matter how hard I blinked, they wouldn't stop. Not the right fit? Alex, are you hearing yourself? You're asking your own family to not attend your wedding? Michael stepped forward, his voice soft, but filled with hurt. Is it because of me? Because I'll embarrass you? No, it's not like that. Alex began, but he couldn't finish. The look on his face said it all. Jack was beside himself, anger and disbelief mixing in a way I'd rarely seen. We raised you better than this, Alex. This is your brother, and we're your parents. How can you stand there and say these things? I couldn't bear it. Grabbing my coat, I headed for the door, with Jack and Michael close behind. Alex didn't stop us, just watched, and that silence was worse than any words. In the car, the tears wouldn't stop. Jack reached over, squeezing my hand. We did something wrong along the way with him, but we gotta be strong now. For Michael. Michael, from the back seat, his voice cracked with emotion. This is all my fault. I'm so sorry, Mom. Pulling him into a hug as best I could from the front seat, I whispered. Never say that. None of this is on you. You're the best thing that's ever happened to us. The ride home was quiet, each of us lost in our thoughts. It was clear Alex had chosen his path, and in doing so, he'd stepped away from us, from the family that loved him unconditionally. In trying to blend into Lana's world, he'd forgotten where he came from, who he was. A month had passed since Alex's wedding, a wedding we didn't attend, and then he and Lana showed up at our doorstep. Lana's eyes roamed around our home like she was planning a full-scale renovation, making it clear our place wasn't up to her standards. "This all needs redoing. I can't possibly live here," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. Alex, eager to please her, quickly agreed. "Yeah, we'll fix it up the way you want, Lana." Jack and I were baffled. "Fix it up? For what?" I asked, my voice laced with confusion and a growing sense of dread. "That's the thing," Alex began, the words coming out rushed and rehearsed. "We're thinking of starting a family, and, well, this house is perfect for us. You and Dad, you could find a smaller place, and Michael." His words trailed off for a moment before he continued. "Michael could look into some sort of assisted living, right?" I felt my heart sink, a mix of anger and sorrow churning inside me. Before I could find the words, Alex dropped another bombshell. "Besides, I've had it tough, you know? Growing up with Michael, it wasn't easy. Got a lot of flack from people. I think I'm owed some compensation for all that humiliation." Jack and I were stunned into silence. Our son, our Alex, was sitting there, practically a stranger, talking about his brother as if he were a burden, a mistake. But before I could respond, Michael stepped forward. "Actually, I've got something to say." He told us about his company, his success, how he made it big in the tech world, and the house he bought, a house he intended as a gift for Alex and Lana. Michael was clear. "This house was meant for you, Alex, as a gift. But not anymore. Mom, Dad, we're moving to a new place. A better place. And you," he said, turning to Alex, "need to think about what family means." The look on Lana's face was a mix of shock and envy, her eyes darting between Alex and Michael. "You're joking. That new house should be ours. This old place, it's beneath us." The revelation left Alex speechless, his earlier bravado evaporating. Lana was visibly upset, her dream of a new house slipping through her fingers. As I embraced Michael, tears of pride and relief mixed together. Despite the challenges he faced, he rose above them, showing a strength and generosity that left me in awe. And again, the bombshell, Michael pulled out another folder, thick with papers. "I did some digging," Michael said, his voice steady, but I could see the anger just beneath the surface. "Lana isn't who she says she is." Lana turned pale and began to look around. Jack and I exchanged worried looks. "What do you mean?" I asked, not sure I wanted to hear the answer. Michael didn't mince words. "She's not a model. She's been, let's just say, her income comes from dating men. Wealthy men." He hesitated, then added, "I found her profile on a site. It's all here." The disgust was immediate, visceral. "Don't show us, please," Jack and I said almost in unison, the idea alone enough to make our skin crawl. When Alex saw the evidence, his world crumbled right there. The woman he married, the life he thought he was building, it was all a lie. In a fit of rage and humiliation, he threw Lana out, vowing to divorce her and sue for whatever he could get for the deception she'd woven around him. Afterward, he turned to us, eyes downcast, a shadow of the confident man who stood in our living room, demanding we upend our lives for him. "I'm sorry," he muttered, the words barely audible. "I was wrong. So wrong. I wanted to forgive him, to sweep everything under the rug and pretend we could go back to the way things were. But the hurt was too deep, the betrayal too raw. I don't know if I can, Alex," was all I could manage, my voice thick with unshed tears. So, we moved. Michael, Jack, and I settled into the new house, a beautiful space filled with light and the promise of new beginnings. Jack retired soon after, and we started traveling, exploring the world together in a way we'd never been able to before. Alex, on the other hand, was left to piece his life back together in the old house, alone. The once vibrant home, now a stark reminder of the cost of his choices. It wasn't easy, stepping into this new chapter of our lives. There were days I'd catch myself staring out the window, wondering where it all went wrong with Alex, how we could mend the bridges he'd burned. But then I'd remember the strength of our family, the love that carried Michael, Jack, and me through the storm.